These are the options I chose when I spec'd out this 2025 BMW GS Adventure 1300. I just picked this bike up yesterday from the dealership in Austin and rode it home last night, so I have very few miles on it. I wanted to start with going through the options that I was given and why I chose them. As with any new vehicle, this bike had tons of options, which it's great that manufacturers do this. It lets us as the buyer pay for what we want and not for what we don't. But it does mean it's a more complex process to figure out what you actually want and to decide if you should take something that's on the dealer floor within the area that they can ship in, or if you want to wait the 3 months to have it built at Mother BMW in Germany. As far as the model goes, me coming from sport bike world of the S1000R being the last BMW I owned, this is very, very different for me. So I didn't even understand a lot of the options until the dealer went through and explained them to me. It doesn't sit like a sport bike. It's not going to. I wanted something more long distance, better fuel range, the ability to have saddlebags. BMW has a lot of those touring bikes. They have the giant garbage wagons like a Goldwing. They have more the FLH types like a Harley. They have the Heritage types. They have an RT that's kind of a sport tourer. That even felt just huge to me. And this does feel big in terms of looking at it, but it just feels more manageable, I guess, to sit on it. They also make one that's like a S1000RR, but with saddlebags, and it has this engine instead of the high performance i4. But in looking at everything, talking to the dealer, one thing I really liked about this is it's got the 7.9 gallon tank. And so I believe the range on this is 300 to 400 miles depending on how you drive. Ultimately, all the RT and others look just too big and bulky for me. And I was actually afraid the RS, I think it is, that's based on the S1000RR would be too close to crotch rocket world and maybe not enough of a deviation. For me personally, one of the biggest challenges in any of these bikes is that the discs in my lower tailbone are all crushed, and a chopper or something you're sitting back like this on is just not a possibility with me. Crotch rockets actually feel really good for me because you're sitting forward, you're putting the weight on your balls, not on your tailbone, leaning forward. This kind of falls in the middle between a Harley style and a sport bike style, so it's a bit of a gamble to see if this will work with the tailbone. I also know that I have options in terms of I could mess around with the bars or the foot pegs and seat height and everything else. Overall, I felt like this was the best choice for what I'm trying to do. Long distance, not too big and garbagey, big fuel range, nice and comfortable, and it has the versatility. If I want to try some off-roading at some point, I have the ability to do that. This really is like a Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. One of the options that I didn't even think they had is that they make an automatic version of this bike when it comes to the transmission. You can actually have a clutchless bike, and you'll know it right away when you get on the bike and you see there's no clutch handle, and it's basically an automatic. You hit the gas and it takes off. I guess there's a manual mode where you can actually shift through the gears like you would normally just without the clutch, or if you're just in drive mode, you just put it in first, I think, and take off. Haven't been on bikes for years. That's just a little bit too much for me. I like having a manual. So that was one of the first decisions was, yes, I want the clutch and the normal manual transmission. For color, I chose the triple black. I just like that look. It fits well with other bikes like the Aprilia and the cars I have. Low profile, you're not attracting attention and bright red paint while you're whipping in and out of traffic. So I stuck with what I'm used to there, matches the gear, everything. Color is obviously a personal preference. I just like the way this one looks. Most of the bikes you'll find like this are ordered with a premium package. BMW dealerships generally see that's what people want, and they're gonna order for the floor whatever they're most likely to sell. Premium package is one big bundle, and it offers a whole bunch of different features. If you really want to see what each of those are, you can look online at the BMW site, kind of build your own bike. It does have things like, I believe the extra lighting up here is one of them. It's got Shift Pro assists. It's a shift assist for both up and down, same as like what the Aprilia has and what the old S1000RR had as well. And basically that just means you don't have to use the clutch when you're shifting up and down, as long as you've got the revs and throttle position and doing everything else right. So it's kind of a convenience. Doesn't mean it's an automatic, just means it's got shift assist. When it comes to ride height, there are 3 options in these bikes. The one I test rode is the tallest sitting one, and it is fixed. It doesn't vary the height up and down. Even for me at 6'1", I wasn't gonna say I'm on my tippy toes, but even with my boots on, I think my heels were raised a bit off the ground. It felt very high. Seems like if I were on a gravel parking lot and there'd been a mud puddle and I had a low spot, I would really have to stretch out to be able to keep the bike upright. So I wasn't thrilled about that. And then I found out that they make 2 other ones. The middle one is the standard height, and it has dynamic ride control, I believe it is. So basically the bike, under 18 mile an hour, it'll be lower, and then it'll raise up once it gets to speed. So that means that while you're stopped at a stop sign or when you're first getting on the bike and started, you have a little bit more stability that you can put your feet down, get planted really well, and keep it stable. Once you're going down the road, it'll raise up a little bit and give you a little bit more clearance. Really not a big deal when you're just going down the highway, but if you're doing more adventure off-road stuff, that's a nice to have. The first dealer actually recommended that I go with that model, the standard, since I'm over 6 foot tall. However, a lot of the bikes in the area that had already been coming in were the shorter or third version of this, which means it still has the dynamic ride height adjustment where it raises and lowers it based on your speed, except the other one, the shorter one, is actually dropped a couple inches lower than the standard. And again, me at 6'1", on the lower one, which this is what I got, is the lowest one. 2 reasons. One, it does let me feel more planted when I'm at a stoplight or just taking off, which is good because it's a tall bike, right? So that felt better to me. The other reason is that a lot of people do want that shorter version. You know, if you're less than 6 foot, it almost becomes a necessity. The sales guy at Austin even said that for him, he's found that he can go around Circuit of the Americas faster on the shorter version. That may be because you're shortening your profile, and so when you go around the track, you have less drag, but he just feels more comfortable and he can actually turn better times on the short version. Since that was what was available in his shop, all else being equal, that's what I ended up choosing. The adaptive cruise control, I believe, only came on the 25, not the 24. The 24 did have some dealer incentives as far as finance goes, but I really like the idea of having adaptive cruise control. I've got it on the 911, and it really is nice for long distance rides. So that was one of the main reasons to get in the 25. It also has a little bit bigger tank capacity, and again, all the newest technology. And I think the adaptive cruise control is included with a premium package, if I remember right. Another option that I believe is included as part of that premium package is the nav ready system up here. So there's a bracket that goes across, it's got power coming to it, and my understanding and the way it was explained to me at first is that you could buy, say, a Garmin and just plug it in and it was good to go. It's actually not the case. This is set up for something that's a little bit older, it sounds like, that BMW had as an option. There's also an aftermarket you can plug in that will basically just clone your phone. And that's really not something I was interested in either. To get the latest GPS technology from Garmin, what I'm basically gonna have to do is take this off, cut the leads, use the mount somehow to adapt to the Garmin, and then splice into the power leads to feed the Garmin power. So that'll be a whole separate project. It is nice, at least you've got the power leads in a bracket. I may also see if there's not a way I can use the radar detector mounted to this somehow as well. That may be the easiest place to do that. So both the radar detector and the Garmin have been ordered this morning. So as soon as those come in, I'll start trying to figure out the electronics and how I want to connect and mount those. The next option we'll talk about is the wheels. Now, a lot of these bikes come with spoked wheels. These are actually forged wheels. So they're going to be a little bit lighter than a cast wheel, a little bit better performance, and it is rotating mass. These will be great for road use. You could use them on a track if you wanted. Once you get into the off-road area, this bike being bigger and heavier, it can still do the off-road stuff, but it's not going to be quite as nimble as just the GS non-adventure version or some of the other bikes they make. If you're really going to do a lot of offloading, the spoked rim is a better way to go, because if you're blasting down some trail and you hit a tree root or something, you could break a spoke and replace the spoke as opposed to actually cracking this forged wheel. So it really depends on what kind of riding you're going to be doing. Personally, I never liked the look of a spoked wheel. Even in chopper world, they're a pain to clean. Heaven forbid they get off a little bit and you got to relace or trim. And because I'm probably not going to be climbing the Andes Mountains on this thing, I figured the forged wheels were the way to go for me. Similarly, the tires that come with this, there are different packages. Even with this, I think it's the same package, but there are different tires that can come on this. These are a Michelin Anarchy, not Anarchy, but Anarchy it looks like. And they're not exactly knobby, but kind of pseudo knobby. So they're not as smooth as what a Pilot Road would be, which is what I'll use once these things are chewed up. But they have almost a bit of a knobby feature. That's fine. What I was told is they're like 80% road, 20% off-road as far as the design characteristics. They'll be fine. They're not like a true knobby. And I think that might be with the Enduro package. Anyways, you're speccing out your bike. Make sure to not only consider the wheels, but what kind of tires will be coming on it. Another option is the blinkers. And I believe this may also be part of that Enduro package. These blinkers, as you can see, are embedded in the grip protectors that go around your grip and your lever here. So that's where the blinkers are. They do push them out to the side so you get a wider range, which is easier for visibility of the guy in front of you looking at the mirror. The other option is that the blinkers would be mounted somewhere over here, closer into the body. The reason for that is if you fall over with this bike and you shatter this and break your blinker, that's a lot more expensive than if it's just plastic and your blinkers are in closer to the body and more protected. So again, I think that might come with the Enduro package as well. For what I'm going to be doing, this is probably fine. And from what I understand, the guys had this at the dealer on play day and they knocked them over a couple times and no problems with breaking the blinkers. It's probably pretty stout. Going to the rear of the bike, this does have the saddlebag mounts, as you can see. Unfortunately, these saddlebag mounts are not compatible with the 2024 and earlier models, which means there are brand new saddlebags coming for the 25. They're behind schedule a little bit, so I've ordered the two side bags. They're available in both the silver aluminum look as well as the black. So I ended up getting the black just to match the rest of the bike. And they are the hard bags. They look like the big old lunch boxes back there. So I've got the left and right on order. Don't know exactly when I'll see those. They'll have keys that will match the key for the bike. So the dealer has to key them to match. And the left one actually has a power outlet. So I believe when you put the bag on, if you have, I don't know, a laptop in there or some other device, you can plug it in to charge while you're doing it. Because those can be ordered separately, it doesn't really matter what your bike comes with. It's not going to make or break you being able to use a bike off the dealer's floor versus ordering it. They're just something that can be ordered and put on any bike. And if I remember right, those hard bags for just the left and right black ones like I ordered are close to $2,000. Obviously, I rolled it into the price of the bike so that I can finance it instead of having to shell that cash out of pocket. Related to that, one item that is specific to the bike and has to be part of the bike is this piece back here. It's actually the interface for the top. So that little beer cooler that goes up on the top bag, hard bag, that needs this specific piece. So it's, I think, $100 difference if you get it from the factory this way. If you think you're going to want the option, it's better to order it from the factory or find a bike that has it that way, because you can either pay $100 or whatever the price is now to have it, or if you want to order it later and swap it, it's going to cost a lot more and you're going to have the wasted money of the old one. It also has not only the mount for the big beer cooler, but it has a power outlet as well, so that you can also be charging things in the top bag if you choose to use one of those. For all the bags, they make soft bag inserts. And I think it was $100 for all the bags. I will only use the left and right, obviously, but you get all the bags, and what it basically means is instead of, even though these are very easy to disconnect, take off, and carry into the hotel with you, the soft bag that goes inside makes it even easier. You can leave the bag attached. It's safe because it's been keyed to lock in place. You flip open the hard bag, you take your soft bag with your clothes, go into the hotel, drop it back in the next morning, and you're off on the road again. The Enduro package that I mentioned a couple times, again, not knowing exactly what all is included with that, but I know two of the things that are part of that. One is the foot pegs. There is some adjustment to the foot pegs. I don't know exactly if it's up and down, back and forth, or what it is, but they do have some adjustability to them. The other difference is in the risers on the handlebars. I believe these standard ones are available to rotate the bars forward and back a little bit to give you a little bit of flexibility. There are aftermarket ones, they said, that you can get that give you a whole bunch more range of motion with it. The Enduro ones are like Legos. They're stacked. I can't remember, there's 3 of them, but they're a set of risers that stack 3 on top of the other, and you can use that to raise the height of your bars. So if you're going to do a lot of off-road stuff, the Enduro package may be something you want to look at. For the exhaust, they do make an Acra option. It's almost a shotgun. It kind of splits into 2 chunks, over and under. It looks cool. I think it's actually a bit heavier. And I think one of the sales guys said to him it's a little bit quieter. It has a nice sound, but this has a nice sound. If this BMW had one of those big, ugly, bulky cans on it, I may have considered it more. But for $1,000 to add a little bit of weight, I'm not that worried about the sound, and this looks fine. It's nice and compact, so I'm not too worried about it. So I saved my $1,000 on the Acra and just stuck with this. Again, this was what was on this bike that they happen to have in the crate in the back, so that's also part of why I chose it. If it would have had the Acra, fine, but since it didn't, no big deal to me. And if I really want it down the road, I can always go buy one and swap it out. You've just then wasted the money of the original can. Another option is the windscreen up here. This is the standard windscreen. It's what came on this particular bike. It has a lot of functionality in terms of adjustment. You can mount it at high or low points, and the bike actually allows you to move the screen up and down as well. Now they make a wider and taller version of the screen that you can buy as an option. If you've made too many trips through the drive-through and you're wider than the bike is, then you may want that bigger windscreen. For me, this does a really good job. On the drive home last night, I was pleasantly surprised how much the screen protects you from buffeting winds. Yes, I'd feel it behind a semi if I was too close. Going around them, it was a little bit windy last night, but overall, this thing's probably sufficient for me. Anything bigger would be a little bit bulky looking, so I was happy to have the normal sized one instead of the big one. Once you've sat with the dealer and gone through all the options, they're able to look within their inventory, dealerships around them they might be able to bring in, around the country, see what's coming. It might be at a port somewhere waiting for it for a few weeks. Or if you really want exactly your specific specs and they don't have anything close to that, you can always order it to be built from the factory. They said that's about a 3-month wait. For me personally, not only did this bike have everything I really wanted, but even some of my preferences like the smaller windscreen and no Acra and that. So to me, it's perfect for what I want. Next steps for me with this bike are installing the navigation and the radar detection, getting them mounted and wired up. And then another big task is learning the screen controls on this. There are a lot of menus, very deep. I've done videos before for both the Aprilia and the old S1000 on how to navigate the menus. I'll do one for this as well. It's just going to take a while because there is a lot going on in that. You want to make sure that you're familiar with those controls before you get on the road, because the last thing you need on a motorcycle is more distractions. If you haven't done so, please click the link below to subscribe, click the little bell for notifications, and let's live for today.